All right. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I see some messages coming in. Thank you guys for joining us today. Please comment if you are able to see and hear us. It says we are live on YouTube. We're live on LinkedIn and Facebook. If you're in any of those groups, please comment in the chat and let us know where you're joining in from so we can get to know you a little bit. All right. Let me close my YouTube channel so it's not playing in the background as well. So we're gonna give you guys at least like a minute to join in, but as you guys continue joining in, please feel free to comment and let us know your name, where you're joining in from. I see Johanna Graham. Thank you for joining us today. We're really excited to be able to go through this with you guys today. So. Awesome. Hey everybody, welcome. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. We're very excited to have you. We have made it finally to the 5th virtual summit event that we've been doing for the Hustle to Growth Summit. So we're very excited to have you guys. And we do have an amazing guest on today, which we're going to get to. But really just wanted to, again, we're so grateful to have you guys. So to kick things off, so for those who are joining for the first time, today's virtual summit session is going to be about lead nurturing. Nirvana is the topic for today's session, and we're going to be going through how to build a marketing machine that cultivates connection and converts. And then with that, we're going to move on to the next slide. So I want to educate you guys a little bit about the summit, right, and why it was created, and why, essentially this concept has come about. So over the past few years, I've consulted numerous business owners, and throughout the year, I've talked to almost about 500 different business owners, and coach and consult some of them as well. And I really wanted to essentially create a platform that allows multiple business owners to come in and be able to learn, grow, apply, and just basically be a better business owner, right? At the end of the day, entrepreneurship isn't the most easiest. I know sometimes we might see it on social media and it just seems like, oh yeah, you start a business, make all this money, but there's so much more that goes into it. And the good thing behind this is that we're really passionate about really just being able to provide knowledge and education through these virtual sessions that essentially we've been doing. And then also our in-person event, which we'll get into a little bit later, but that's happening on November 8th this year as well. So for those joining for the first time, hopefully you got your knowledge hats on today. This is going to be an opportunity for you to learn from myself and then also our guest speaker. and then also figuring out some additional strategies that you can apply into your business so you continue to grow. Now, a little bit of information about me, right? So I was born and raised in the city of Boston, the city of champs. I know a lot of people, a lot of other cities don't feel that way, but hey, you know, I'm repping my city. And then just some background about me. I used to, I was outside of being born and raised in Boston. I've had a bit of a challenge growing up, you know, with my childhood, and you know, experiencing a lot of deaths and being adopted by my aunt at the age of 13, and just being able to continue to pave my path, and obviously put God first, and letting Him guide me through all of this, to leading me to where I am today. I did get a degree in entrepreneurship and marketing from the school at Northeastern University, and started my first business out of high school. So I've always had this entrepreneurial passion to be an entrepreneur, to learn about entrepreneurship, and to be the best version of myself in the business world. And then some fun things about me. Some people know me as a business growth coach, published author, public speaker, more on the inspirational side, the inspirational speaker, and then serial entrepreneur. And then I love to volunteer my time in supporting young adults that are passionate about entrepreneurship, and providing them with the tools through our Lease Legacy program, and helping them pave their path into entrepreneurship as well. So if you need to get in contact with me, some of my information is there. You can call me, email me, visit my website, or just follow me on any of my social handles on just by typing in my name. I have the same social handle for almost every single social media platform that there probably is. So with that, we're going to go to our guest and have her introduce herself as well.
Well, thank you so very much for having me as a speaker today. I'm super excited to be able to contribute in the conversation about lead generation, because that's such a major part to having a business. Sometimes there's this just post and it magically happens, but there's a lot more to it than that. For those of you who do not know who I am, my name is Jessie Gary. I have been an entrepreneur now going into my 15th year. I do a specific type of event planning in the corporate space. Over the last few years, I've started to help and support other event and service-based businesses with being able to just talk about the unsexy things about entrepreneurship, because sometimes what's the most popular buzzworthy things, they're not always going to be the things that allow for you to scale and grow inside of your business. So over the last 4 years, I've been doing consulting. I also am a HoneyBook Pro, which is a CRM system or for client relationship management. Everyone has different platforms, and I don't think there's one best platform for each. It just depends on your business and the type of client you serve. So I've always just been really passionate about helping other entrepreneurs grow and scale, because at some points of starting my career, it wasn't always easy to find information. And now a lot of people are starting to get into the small business and entrepreneur space. So I love to just share information to help you with growing and scaling. So I look forward to contributing in this conversation today. And I'll pass it over to you, Wendell.
Yep. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being available and being able to join us today, so you can add some additional value. I know we briefly had a conversation. Literally, we met. I guess a little backstory. So we met at the Dallas Startup Week, and literally we just connected. We had a whole conversation, and it led to me learning a little bit more about you learning about our business, and then literally a couple of days. Well, last week, literally we're finishing the outline for this presentation, and it just happened that, hey, look at this, like I got somebody who's like a system manager that understands systems, processes, and I was like, this is honestly like divine timing, and let me bring you in, because I know that you can add so much value to this call. And again, really, that's really the biggest thing about growth, right? There's so much opportunity, there's so much that we can leverage from one another. in order to continue to grow and build and do things better and do business better. And this is just a prime example of just one connection leading to this, right? So again, thank you. I'm grateful for you to be here as well. So with that being said, we're going to dive in a little bit into some I guess, things that we just got to do anyways, right? Just to prep everybody, get everybody ready for what's about to happen during this summit today. So first thing is we want to thank WJD Brands. Yes, that is my brand. We basically specialize in graphic design, social media marketing, paid ads, SEO, marketing funnels, lead gen, and really just helping people understand how to start, grow, and scale their business. So, and build their online presence. We're in a few different locations. We're international, but also you can find us on any of these social media channels as well. But again, to the next thing I want to cover, which is the business growth stages, right? Before we can talk about growth, we have to understand what does growth look like in your business, right? And a lot of times, a lot of people who start businesses never had businesses before, or they never had good role models, right? That they could look up to and understand, okay, how do I take, this one concept or this idea, the service that I have, and actually take it to the next level. And I just wanted to be very clear a little bit around kind of what that journey looks like, right? So you can also see beyond just kind of the initial, oh, well, this is what I thought business was, right? Because at the end of the day, there's so much more. McDonald's started really small and it blew up to something that's really big now, and they're in so many different spaces. You have Amazon, you have all these major companies, and they all started with one idea, right? They all started in this one stage, right? The solopreneur stage, and they've grown to become really a growth company where they have over millions of employees, millions of staff, a huge pot of revenue, and they continue to innovate and be the leaders in their industry. So I wanted to really kind of bring things back and really help some of you guys understand where you probably are in the growth stage, right? And it's okay if you're in the solopreneur stage, because that just lets you know you got some more work to do, right? And that's okay. Now, most people who are probably going to be watching this or on this call is probably going to be somewhat in the solopreneur stage and in the new employer stage, right? Our goal is to really kind of help you see and understand processes and build as you go. But if you're in the solopreneur stage, typically either what happens is that you're either working your business full time and you're the only one, you're wearing multiple hats, you don't have any support, you're doing the marketing, you're doing the systems, you're doing the project management, you're doing the legal, you're doing your own bookkeeping, right? You're doing all these things, right, in your business, just to try to, keep as much income in-house, right? Or you probably got a side job and working your business side on the side as well, right? So you still got that cushion of, hey, I got a consistent check coming in, but I'm going to do this business on the side. Typically, if you're in either of those stages, you're in the solopreneur stage, right? Most people who then reach that new employer stage, typically they start to realize that they need people, they need processes, they need support, but then they also need to grow their sales, right? And at that point, it's a little bit tough to still be in the solopreneur stage and working a full-time job while trying to do this, because now your focus has to be on the business, right? It has to be on how do I get more revenue, more income, more things going that's going to allow you to continue to grow and scale your business. At this point, typically you'll be making around $100,000 to $300,000 in revenue. But at this point now, it's like, okay, I'm trying to take it to the next level. And then eventually you'll start getting to the steady operations where now you have more strategic partners that are going to help elevate you in your business. And then again, more refined processes, more invested tools, systems, again, to essentially continue to build your business to that growth company. So again, I'm not going to spend all day looking at this, but if you want to get more information, feel free to reach out to us. and then we can kind of go more in depth about this, but I just wanted to kind of shed some light around that. Now, for those who have been on this journey with us, right, since day one, right, since we launched this, like I said, this concept came to me back in, this was the end of April, and then I have an amazing team that helped us put all this together. And, you know, we've already had 4 successful summit events, all targeting different things around business, right? The first one was all about mindset. We had Ben Bauer who joined us, and he was talking all about how a lot of people are running their business the way they run their lives, right? So understanding the mindset and how powerful your perceived reality is versus what is the truth and not the truth. We had the second session, the virtual summit, which was all about understanding how to create a client persona, right? A lot of times we're targeting so many people, right? We want everybody to be our client, and not everybody can be our client, right? Because at the end of the day, you need to be able to truly understand the product service you have to offer and how you can actually elevate your business, but also understand the pain points of your ideal client, so then you can speak the language that resonates with them. And then we even went further into social AI. We had a great AI speaker who was on there with us as well. My bio was blanking out, but basically Lysander was on there, and he was basically dropping some gems around AI and the different technology that you can use to really, again, grow your business. And I even went further by talking about how you can create 30 days of content on social media for your social media channels within 10 minutes using AI and some of the other tools that we went over. And then the last one we talked about was all about the irresistible offer and how you can create it, but leverage it to connect and convert high quality leads, which is going to segue into today's session, right? Which we're going to get into the lead nurturing aspect of the conversation. So agenda wise, I do want to say that we're going to talk a little bit about, today you're going to learn a little bit more about what is lead nurturing, the lead nurturing marketing machine framework that we have that we're going to share with you today. And again, there's so many different frameworks. This is just one example, just for the sake of time, making sure that you guys can just understand how to actually build a framework, but also understand the ins and outs of them. The anatomy of a buyer's journey, which is so important. Lead nurturing tactics that you can leverage within your business. And then the marketing machine framework and steps to creating a marketing machine, and then common pitfalls to avoid. So we're both going to, Jesse and I are going to talk on this topic a little bit today, but basically I wanted to give you guys a definition, right, of what we see what we see lead nurturing to be, right? Lead nurturing is the process of building and maintaining relationships with potential customers / leads at every stage of their buying journey. The goal is to guide these leads through the sales funnel by providing relevant information, personalized content, and ongoing engagement until they are ready to make a purchasing decision. Some of the statistics that you guys will probably find interesting, which was interesting to me, is that companies that do well at lead nurturing generate 50% more sales ready leads at 33% lower costs. 80% of new leads never convert into sales due to the lack of lead nurturing. That's a huge percentage. 50% of buyers pick the vendor that responds quickly, hence making the process of lead nurturing essential. And then also, a lot of things that people don't realize with lead nurturing is that you also need at least 9 touch points, right, before somebody can even engage with you and actually say, yes, I actually want to work with you. So with me sharing some of this, Jesse, talk to me about, like, obviously we went through some of these stats, we went through some of this definition. How are you seeing this applied into the day-to-day processes that you see in your business or some of your clients that you've been helping understand the lead nurturing process? So I'll give you the floor.
Yeah, no, I think that this is something that's extremely important. Most of the people that I deal with are mostly in the event space, or the event vein of industries. And this is something I talk about ad nauseum. One, because I'm often sourcing people to be vendors for what we do within our business. However, I also support people with getting clients. And one of the things that I share is that when I'm looking for vendors and when I'm sourcing, there is a huge disconnect with people on how to actually follow up, and make sure that they're capturing like opportunities. So I'll give an example that just recently occurred in the last 3 weeks. Because this client or this company did not have anything in place to nurture the opportunity that I had for them. I was looking for someone that had a specific service that was in a DC area. When I reached out to them, I tried to email, didn't get a response, so I called. And I got someone. I was like, hey, I just want to talk to you. I'm looking for a potential partner that specializes in this specific service. They're like, oh, this is great. We'd love to do something like this and all the great things. She's like, oh, I'll send you something today. Nothing came. And then 2 days later, I followed up with the person when instead she could have followed up with me, but did not follow up with me. And because I've been doing business long enough, I know that a good chunk. So when I see the statistics, it makes sense. I'm like, because usually when I'm sourcing and finding people, it could be traumatic. Like you'll think like, oh my goodness, it's something with you. In reality, it's that when you're trying to find clients and customers, they just are not the best of communication. So with this specific person, a couple of days went by, followed up again because she didn't even do what she said she was going to do. She's like, oh, I'm so sorry. It's been a little crazy. I'm about to go out of town. But can I send it to you on Monday? I'm like, okay, so here we are already 4 days and I still didn't get anything. So that Monday, by then I already had started reaching out to someone because for me, as someone that's always looking for new vendors and people to partner with, I have learned one, most will not be professional enough to actually follow up, to nurture me, to be for me to be their client. So like that's the crazy part about it is that I'm trying to give her an opportunity to make money. And in the meantime, I went ahead and reached out to someone else because I know that statistically, most people will not follow up. I've had some people take 4 months. Like I reached out to someone for something for Valentine's Day, and I think it was like April, and she's like, "I'm so sorry," and I'm like, okay, well, maybe I'll keep your information for 2025. Like, what do you want me to do now? However, the biggest thing is I reached out to someone else. They sent me their information. She gave me the pricing. And in the meantime, I booked her 3 times. So this one vendor missed out on potentially just from what I have booked so far, $3,000 worth of revenue inside of her business because she did not follow up. So when you're talking about lead nurturing, this is something we need to be present to, is that if you are thinking that someone's going to, I don't even remember it. And here's the crazy thing about it. Even though I reached out to her 3 times, I don't even remember the name of the company. Yeah. And so people think like, oh, if someone's interested and they're serious, sometimes what happens is that we're putting people that are serious into people that into a category that they're just curious or they're not serious. And then so what we do is not think to follow up, or we don't take it as a serious inquiry. So it's super important when you're doing lead generation to understand that some people may not be pulling a trigger today because they found you. But if you're hoping that they remember your name remember your company, if you don't have any way to keep them connected, they will not remember you. Every year inside of my company, I'm always looking for people that do holiday decor and for like the Christmas trees and all that type of stuff. And I can work with someone and they never think to reach out to me the following year to just say, hey, it was great working with you. Do you need my services again? Like nothing like that. So I think it's something super important for business owners when you think about lead nurturing. Even if someone reaches out because they're curious about your service, but they don't pull the trigger, it's up to you to follow up with them. It's up to you to keep in connection. And it might not be a phone call. It might be email marketing or something that's more targeted, but you do want to do it because this day and age, I know that the person that didn't respond back to me, it's not out of anything slight. It's just that the person's not organized. Like that's one of the things for myself. If you're not that organized so that I can pay you, I don't want to work with you. Like I've just been doing it so long. I let it just be natural. the natural process of weeding themselves out. But I think with lead nurturing is super important because I shared that story on my TikTok and some people were like, oh my gosh. And I'm like, you do this too. You just don't realize it. So this is why you need to have a system and a process to be able to do that. Because if you're hoping that Instagram is going to put your information in front of them, you're lying to yourself. Instagram does not care about you. Like they want your information to sell to people, to the people that are going to put money on advertising. But if you're not actively out there collecting information, getting people off of these platforms, putting them in your sales funnel, you'll be putting a lot of effort into something and you probably find yourself a little bit disappointed in the results that come from it.
No, 100%. I agree with you 100% on that. I think even in the nature of my business, right, I'm always about people, process, systems is really like one of the biggest things for me. And it's crazy because I've worked with clients who have come to me and they've told me like, hey, like your process and your system, your follow-up, even just your client portal is just a whole nother level. I've worked with so many other companies and they just send me a blanket invoice and I just pay it, or, you know, they just send me a proposal and then that's it. But the fact that like you can follow up and understand the issues that we're facing, have those conversations and be able to, again, follow up, right? After every call, literally, you get a recording of the call, you get information about things that we've talked about. And then even in the follow-up process, right? Somebody could fill out a form but don't schedule a call. We still have processes in place to still be able to support. And you have to be able to think at the end of the day, like, you know, everybody's different and not everybody's going to be in the same buying journey, which we're going to get into, because by understanding the buyer's journey, you're really going to be able to really embed more touch points. Again, touch points could be phone call, it can be an email, it could be word of mouth, it could be your website, it could be a blog, it could be something that you're adding and just giving people information on. And then that literally can turn into an actual sale and them just remembering you, right? Because at the end of the day, there's so much noise out there in the marketplace right now. But people who are spending the time to just generally follow up and have processes in place to stay top of mind are the ones that are going to continue to get business, right? It doesn't matter if they saw you the first time, right? If somebody books with you for the first time after just meeting with you, those are the people we essentially call impulse buyers because they're just like, they're ready, they're going, they're action takers, they're going to get things done. But then if they go into your customer process and your process isn't good, then I can tell you're probably going to expect a bad review because now they didn't take the time to understand your process because they went straight in because it looked good on the forefront. But if the process after it wasn't good, then it's not going to be a good look. So all these things are, again, like I said, there's a lot to business beyond just, hey, I need you like shaking the hand. How many networking events you go to and you think that you shook somebody's hand, you had a great conversation, that's gonna be my client. They're not.
No.
All the time.
And I think though too, with what's super important for people to know, specifically in service-based businesses, is that I hear, oh, there's so much competition out there. I definitely hear that a lot in the vein of business I'm in. And I will always say, no, it's not. Like I still, if I need to find a specific type of event business or service vendor, I still reach out to 5 to 10 because I automatically expect that 80% of them are not going to reply to me. Yep. So you have a lot of people that have businesses and they look as if, like even yesterday, I did a post saying, hey, because on my Facebook page, I usually just give fillers because everybody knows what I do by trade. So I want to give people opportunities to refer people. And I'll say, hey, everyone, I'm trying to look for this type of business right now. If you have anyone that you want to recommend, please, please let me know and tag them, and they'll tag them. And I would tell you 95% of the people never think to direct message me.
Nope.
They don't think to do anything outside of thanks for looking out. And you think about the response, because for me, that helps me know that you take your business like a hobby, because those that are serious, what they'll do is come into my inbox and say, hey, my friend tagged me. I would love to hear about this opportunity. And that helps someone to understand, especially if you're looking to attract a certain kind of client. Like I consider my company, I'm building a corporation. So if I see myself as that, I'm not looking for necessarily someone as a hobbyist to do what I do, because sometimes that can be a little bit risky. And some people might not like that I said that, but I have to be with working with people. Sometimes what happens is that what scares individuals about having employees or people that work with them is the fear of someone not taking it serious. However, if you hire people that don't take it serious, that's not a reflection of them. That's a reflection of your ability to pick the right people. And with me doing this for over 10 plus years, there's been things I've learned. Who are the individuals I need to align with and who are the ones that I don't need to align with? So it's being present to the fact that there are opportunities out here, but if you're not taking time to nurture them, I had someone that wanted to be a hostess on our team, and she legitimately, and all it is just to help support with the events. And she was recommended by someone that currently works with me. Every month, she sent me a message to just say, "Hey, Jesse, I just want to check to see." And but that's just to work with me. So if you can't do that for your own business, and that's what someone's willing to do to actually work on someone's team, that tells, like, it took 6 emails for me finally to get opportunities to work with her. And that's just to work with me. And a lot of businesses don't even take the time to even do 2 messages. So that's my thought points on it. So take the time, do the follow-up. It does take, the 9 times. And sometimes what happens is because people don't always understand what is the average turnaround on a lead, because we think like, oh, if I talk to someone today, they immediately go and pull the trigger. If someone pulls the trigger today, it's because they already had touch points prior that were pains and they already were searching, and you just happen to be at the moment where they're like, I'm ready to go.
Yep, 100%. So with that, we're actually jump right into this, right? Because everything that you just said, so is actually going to lead into this difference, right? That I want to address here, right? So we have, what's the difference between lead nurturing and customer nurturing, right? A lot of times people get the process like mixed up, or they combine them together, right? And one thing I want to share is that with lead nurturing, a lot of times you're basically just dealing with a lead that's come into your pipeline and they're not a customer yet, right? And the process that you take them through is one thing, right? And it's, the follow-ups, it's basically showing up, making sure that, you're calling or emailing or just being present in educating them about what you do, all the way until they actually buy something, right? The customer nurturing is a whole different process, because once they actually become a customer, they're no longer a lead, right? So now the journey you take them through as a customer also has to be thought out, right? And a lot of times, as business owners, we would just get into the business, we'll start doing things, but we don't take the time to reflect and actually go back and realize, like, okay, how else can I improve this process, right? In some ways that you can be able to do that is just by asking, asking questions after you're done completing a service with the customer. What could have I done better, right? Every single client that we work with, I always ask that question. I'm like, hey, what could have we done better to improve the process? 9 times out of 10, they're just like, honestly, like, it was so flawless. Things were quick. Like, you guys exceed expectation. Like, everything was just there. Like, that's literally the conversation most of the time. And then the ones that do generally spend the time to really just think like, okay, really, what could have they done different? And then that one person, I would say that we could have done something different, we take that and we implement it, right? And that's part of really just building a customer nurturing process to make sure that at the end of the day, the customer experience doesn't get lost from the lead nurturing experience. Because, and I'm sure, Jesse, you've probably seen that so many times. You start going through a process, you get into somebody's pipeline, they're so quick at following up and telling you everything about them. And as soon as they collect that check, they're gone. You barely see them, you barely hear from them. Like, the response time is bad. Like, it's just like everything is gone bad, right? In the customer nurturing side. So it's so important. And again, that's where the bad reviews come. That's where, just again, people start to say bad things about your business, and then now it's like you're trying to build back up the credibility of what you can do, and you don't want to be in that position, especially as a business owner. So what would you like to share around that?
The biggest thing I would always recommend to people is you do want to give feedback and make those adjustments. However, I think it's also important to have discernment as well. Like I recently had a client who was like, I think your onboarding is difficult. Mind you, in the meantime, 4 other people have signed contracts, onboarded, and everything. So sometimes what someone says is valid. However, I can tell with this specific one, I really enjoy their vibe, but tech savviness is just not their ministry. I've learned this, and it's not just one, it's multiples. So in the meantime of sending someone else and having them go through the whole process, they've signed the contract, they've booked, and they've confirmed. Where this one, it's a lot more conversation. So you can take heed of what this recommendations people give, of course, because even when things don't go well, that teaches you. So one of the things that I had to learn earlier in my leadership development was don't see mistakes as like failures or anything like that. They really are learned. They like get over the hurt of whatever happened, because it's good to acknowledge like, dag, I wish this would have happened. But then what can you do better? What can you learn from it? And depending on the type of business you have and your client, but that's why earlier from what I saw, y'all had a conversation about understanding your ideal client and things like that. Like, I feel like people think those are buzzwords, but they're like, if you say that you service everyone between the ages of 21 to 65 that have discretionary income, that tells me it don't make no sense. Like if Target where everyone shops has a ideal client that helps them with figuring out what products they're putting into the retail store that everyone's going into.
Yep.
We should have that. And I don't think that people sometimes worry that if they have an ideal client, that it excludes them from other people who are working with them. And what it does is actually gives more people clarity on who you are and what your truths are and how you support people. So when you're doing your customer nurturing and your lead nurturing, it's important to understand who your client is. Like I know that typically with the way that we capture leads and things of that nature, it can take sometimes 60 to 90 days conversion. So by knowing this, I have to have a process to get them into the funnel, and then also understanding that it's going to be certain activities to help stay in at the forefront of their mind, because they're not going to remember who I am anyway. So, and then also understanding once they are customers, what are the things I need to have a part of their customer flow? So process is key. It's important to not overwhelm yourself so that you get stuck, because some people, I understand that that's how they process this stuff, is like, oh my gosh, all these words sound so overwhelming and things of that nature. However, ignoring them and avoiding them doesn't help with you getting clarity or moving forward. So take the time to either, like we both said, do reviews with clients, ask them what can we do better. And then as your business grows and you bring on clients, you'll be able to, improve it. And it's always an improvement, especially as you are increasing your capacity and there's more bodies involved in your flow that's on your team. So it's always a continuous process.
Oh, 100%. No, I agree with you. And I think everything you said is valid, right? And really taking the time to understand your customers can help with a lot of the lead nurturing as well, the customer nurturing process as well. So with that, I think we're not going to spend a lot of time on customer nurturing today, because I really want to get into the lead nurturing process. But before talking about that, I do want to talk about the anatomy of a buyer's journey, right? Now, the reason why this is very important, right, is because a lot of times, and I'll use this as an example, right? I have customers that come to me and they come to me and they're like, hey, I need you to get me X, Y, and Z number of leads by next month. And I'm like, okay, well, it's not that it's impossible. It's just that we have to understand the process, right? What is going to lead to somebody actually buying with you, right? And a lot of times clients come to us because they're like, hey, I want you to basically get my brand and product out there and then immediately get buyers. And in the business world, unfortunately, it doesn't work that way, right? We have to be able to really generally understand like what is actually a buyer's journey, because we don't take the time to understand that. Then a lot of times you're going into it thinking like, oh, well, everybody's like, as soon as they come to my website, I'm expecting that they're supposed to know how to buy my product, right? And if we're going through these stages, right, number one, we have the awareness stage. The awareness stage is basically like, let's say you created your low ticket offer, you started posting on social media, you created a product or service, let's say, and you now, like, nobody knows that you do anything, right? They've just been seeing you posting videos of, just pictures and dancing, whatever it is, but then you're doing this specific service, right? And then now you decided, hey, I want to revamp my brand and build awareness around the things that I do. Now, as you continue to post and talk about it, people will start to become aware, right? Again, they need multiple touch points for them to start to realize like, oh, actually this person does this, right? And one example I've used, and I think in one of the sessions, was that if I was to ask, let's say 5 of your friends, what do you do? Would I get the same response, right? And a lot of times when I ask that question, people are like, probably not. A good portion of people, yeah, some people, about 25%, are like, yeah, they probably know what I do. And from an awareness standpoint, imagine how impactful that is, right? If all your friends think that, you're in construction, but really you're in real estate, but then really you're a consultant, but really you're something else, then how will they know that you're the perfect fit for them, right? So from an awareness standpoint, a lot of times it's really about how you position yourself, right? It's really about how do you actually convey that people are able to know and acknowledge that you're actually the right person to be able to solve their problem or be an asset to them, right? Then from that, it goes to interest, right? Once they become aware, right? Typically in that awareness stage, they probably already have some self-recognized problem or need. And now they're going through this process of like, hey, this seems interesting. This person seems interesting. They actually posted something about what my problem or that I'm trying to solve, or I want to get more information, right? I'm in that stage. I just need to learn more, right? I'm not going to essentially pull the trigger and buy something right away, but I will explore and see, okay, what else can they share with me, right? I need that credibility. Now you're in that stage of, I need credibility. Who have they worked with before, right? As they're going through that, like, do they have testimonials? Do they have, people who are vouching that they've actually done what they said they're going to do, right? So in that stage of in between interest and consideration, they're looking at all of these elements to determine if you're the right person, right? And then again, depending on price point, that consideration and interest part might take way longer, right? If you're coming in, you're saying, hey, I got $1,000 service, the decision for somebody buying a $50 service versus $1,000 up front, that decision process and consideration process, they're thinking about every aspect of their life. They're thinking, is my family going to be good? What is the rate of return I'm going to get? How is this going to impact me? Because, coming up with $1,000 isn't just the most simplest thing for a lot of people, right? So in that consideration stage, they're thinking about all these things, right? And you have to be able to understand that their journey to being able to buy something from you isn't the same for every single person. But what's similar is the concept of how they go through that process to make that buying decision when they decide to actually make a purchase with you. And then from that stage, once they purchase, now they enter into what we just talked about, the lead nurturing process, where now you're really designed to support them and solve their problem, but also continue to nurture them into other probably services that might support them long term, not just from the initial service that they came to hire you for. So all of these things become very important in that buyer's journey. So I guess, Jesse, what was your experience around this? Are you seeing something similar? What's your take on this?
Yeah, I think that everyone has different stages. And this is why I think it's important, especially when we're getting into someone that reaches out for your service. I'm giving from a perspective of a service-based business. So understanding that when you have someone that comes actually into your sales, like your sales funnel, not because they are on your email list, because they download a freebie, but they actually reached out saying, I'm interested in talking to you to learn more about your services. This is why it's important to have multiple follow-ups and things of that nature. And it's important to have important, no, I don't want to say important, but impactful information that's being sent in those touch-ups, and being realistic. Like, I've seen where some people in my industry are selling sales funnels for people to copy, and they're legitimately sending follow-ups every day. And I'm like, I would not even be interested in your services because I don't have the time. Like, I haven't even read the first email. I'm already 3 in. So you have to know who's your audience. Like, if your ideal audience is someone like myself, I'm extremely busy. Sending me something that I have to scroll down 3 pages, I've only read the first paragraph and I'm out. So it's important, again, when you know who you're targeting, is if you are going to do something that's lengthy and you're helping them with making this decision, it has to fit them and their problems. Like, sometimes what is easy for service-based businesses is that it's always focused on what they want to add value, not what actually will add value. So you want to be clear to that. Like, with me, most of my clients, like, I have never had a storefront because I can barely get them to focus on me if I go into their building without having interruptions. So if I know that I can't do more than a 5-minute conversation with them, sending them a multi-page, super long document, they're not going to read it because that's not who they are. So when you're creating this journey, don't have it be you focused, have it be them focused, add value at the different places, and create packages that make sense to them. Because if not, that makes it a harder sell to convert people.
Yeah, 100%. And another thing too is, right, once they enter into your pipeline, it's really important that you also realize that you need to be able to segment them in that pipeline, right? Segmentation is so important, right? Even on our website right now, you might go to like, if you go to our form and you fill out, hey, I want help with web design, graphic design, email marketing, whatever it's in there, right? I have a process for literally a chain of emails dedicated specifically to those specific things, right? Because at the end of the day, why would I be sending you social media marketing information when you never inquired about it, right? How many times do people come into the pipeline and then you're just giving them information because you're just trying to sell them on something, but you never really focus on okay, what are they really interested in? Because that's the quickest way to get spammed. Like, to basically get reported as spam. That's the quickest way for somebody to unsubscribe and like, nope, you don't understand me. I'm good. I don't want to have a conversation, right? Because you made it all about yourself in the business rather than actual customer that's coming and finding you for a particular reason, a particular problem, a particular solution that you may have to offer. So by not having a nurturing process in place, you literally completely missed the boat. And the next person that does actually have that in place, they're more inclined to say, okay, I trust and believe that this person is going to help me. And they're more inclined to go with that person.
100%.
So, so no, this is really good. So with that, we're going to go on to the next slide. Here's some lead nurturing tactics that I wanted to get into with you guys. So what are lead nurturing tactics, right? So, and these are some tips and tricks, things that you can implement, right, on a regular basis. So you have targeted email newsletters, right? If you don't fully have a process for all the different services that you may offer, right, then being able to give people an opportunity to choose their own adventure, is what I call it, is really important in a newsletter, right? So if you offer 3 different or 4 different services, then maybe if you're going to bulk up everything into one email, where it might be still targeted, then, give them a snippet of all 4, right? So then that way it's a little bit easier for them to digest and say, oh, okay, you got information about this, let me go here. But the good thing about the email newsletter is that depending on what email software you're using, if people continue to engage with specific things that they're clicking on, you can actually track that, all right? You can actually, again, this goes back to your systems, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can actually track these things to see that, okay, I had over 100 people click on this specific link. So clearly, if I send out email 500 and I have 100 people opening and clicking on this particular link, then out of the other links that I have, then this link must be of importance. So maybe I use that as an opportunity to segment those people that engage with that piece of information, add a tag to that email or their name, and then now we take that and now we put them into a separate lead nurturing system that you can build, and just consistently not spam them, but email them on maybe once a week, and letting them know, like, hey, we just had this person come through and they learned about this and we supported them with this, and this was the result. Or here are 5 tips that you can continue to improve and do this based off of this topic, right? Then now that out of those 100, those people are going to continue to engage because you've already saw the level of engagement that they had with the initial thing that you posted, right? So targeted email newsletters, targeted emails just in general is very important when it comes to lead nurturing tactics. Drip campaigns are very similar. Basically what it is like, kind of like I said, if you come to my website and you have different categories and check boxes, you check one specific one, they get dripped into one pile of campaigns, right? And then they're getting emails all about web design, nothing else, right? Because they didn't inquire about that. So don't give them information about things that they didn't inquire about. In between your emails, you can obviously slip some things in there, right? As like additional things just to kind of let people know and educate them. But again, understanding a drip campaign is also really important. Prospecting calls, right? Picking up the phone, having a phone script can also be helpful, right? When it comes to nurturing your leads. So that way you're asking similar questions, you're understanding their pain points, you're documenting the pain points. So then you can be able to follow up and actually have something to connect with them on so that they can remember you. So all those aspects, sales demos and consultations, targeted PPC campaigns, which are pay-per-click campaigns, social media ads. Social media is a whole nother beast in itself. You can run an ad on social media, and literally once they've engaged with that ad, you can do a retargeting ad, just targeting people who engage with your initial ad. And they can, I'm sure you've seen it so many times, Justin, you probably clicked on something, all of a sudden you're getting different email, like different social media posts from the same company, but all about different things, right? That are still in relation to the initial thing you clicked on. And that's because, again, it goes back to understanding the lead nurturing process, that if somebody clicked, you can track the conversion around all of these things, all these metrics, right? So then you can best create campaigns that are going to help you continue to grow and scale your business. So again, some of these other things here are organic social media marketing. That's just constantly posting things that are of relevance to your industry or the services you provide, blog posts, ebooks, white papers, webinars. All of these things are great tactics that you can leverage in order to continue to nurture your leads and build trust and credibility, right? Which is really the biggest thing before they can essentially say, yes, you're the right person. Anything you want to add to this?
Yeah, I've done a mixture of all of these at some different points for both of my businesses. I find that certain ones are better than others with my corporate clients. And that's why we go right back to the importance of knowing who your audience is and where they are at and how the decision makers are looking for content or receiving content. So one of the things that is important is that when you're figuring out what's going to be the best tactic, I don't know if I would recommend you doing all of them, especially if you're in the solopreneur stage of the game. And I'm out of that level, and still like, and even with when you showed that slide, I saw that slide when I was talking to one of the directors at Texas Women University, and I didn't realize the statistic of how many businesses don't make over 250,000. Like, I didn't realize. I thought everybody was balling. Like, I thought something was insufficient in my business, that I wasn't in Bora Bora with Louis Vuitton bags. I thought I was doing something wrong with my life. However, statistically, most people don't have that, you know. So it's important to realize where you are and what capacity you have inside of your business. So if it's picking two and you do it well and you're doing it consistently, then just do two. Like, don't overwhelm yourself with trying to do all of them, and learn how to repurpose it so that you're nurturing and creating. So like within my corporate event business, it's very common for them to go into Pinterest to look for stuff. So of course, I am going to use my blog to put those on Pinterest so that people find them. But then the cool thing about it is, then for the customers I'm actually nurturing, I'm like, hey, just so you know, I've created a Pinterest board for fall ideas. Here you go. So I'm using it not only for lead gen, but I'm also using it to educate, to show myself as a thought leader for my own clientele. So you don't have to, you can use this in two different ways, depending on who that person is inside of your business. So it's important to have clarity on that, because like I tell people, like, I think my Instagram account for my business, we may be at 5,000. 5,000 followers, because most people that are on that page are not the decision makers.
They're not.
They're the individual. When you're dealing with B2B, like not small business, but like going to corporations, the CEO is not on Instagram looking. They're looking at cat videos and looking at their family friends' kids. Like, that's what they're doing, you know, like and some of them don't even really like social media. So they're not even on social media. So if you don't know who your audience is and how to get in front of them, you may be putting all this effort into doing TikTok, but you're trying to get corporate clients. They're not on there. So, and then if someone is on there, that might be someone that's acting as a contractor, you have to put content that's going to get in front of them, not the content that's going to get you in front of the owner. So when you're creating whatever tactic you're going to do, you have to know who's receiving it and why it's going to matter to them. So regardless, like we do in my space, we do a lot of, I do a lot of cold calls. People are like, oh my gosh, calls. I'm like, well, that's the fastest way to get in front of someone. I can call people, get who I need to talk to, have a powerful conversation, schedule follow-up calls and everything like that. And it works for me. However, I get if someone's doing small businesses and things like that, smaller businesses, it doesn't make sense probably to do that kind of work. So again, it's just understanding what's going to get you the better return, and then learning how to do that better over and over again. So don't try to do all the things. Like, we have 2 ways that we try to get people into it. Well, technically 3. One is referrals, but I mean, that should be a part of your nurture and loyalty anyway. So technically 2 ways we get people into it: social media and calls. But it's Pinterest. That's mostly what we put effort into.
No, thank you for sharing that. That's really helpful information. And if y'all got something out of that, feel free to drop a 1 or something in the comment. But that was really good. I think that was a really good way of just kind of summarizing. Again, I'm always a big stickler on, you don't have to do everything, just do one thing really well, right?
So, because some people are going to see that list and be like, oh, I got to do all. I'm not good writer. Now I have to do a newsletter and a blog.
No, you don't have to do all of this. Again, the whole purpose of this slide is lead nurturing tactics. It doesn't mean that you got to do every single one. These are just options that you can leverage in your business based off of what you feel most comfortable doing. So then you can continue to add value so that people can become more comfortable and aware of your brand and trust you and be able to make those referrals, right? Because a lot of times, some people are in that awareness stage and they come across your profile in that awareness stage, and it may not be for them, but because they've understood somebody else's problem and they heard what you have to offer, it's easy for them to make that connection. And again, that's why I said, if I ask 5 of your friends, what do you do? And they can't tell me the same thing, then how are you expecting your friends to connect you to, or your friends, your clients, your businesses, like businesses that you have one-to-ones with that are probably your strategic partners? How are you expecting them to refer business to you if they have no idea what you do? Right.
I recommend that people actually do that. Go onto your Facebook. I did that recently because I don't take my Facebook seriously, to be very honest. Whatever comes to mind that's funny, I put it on there. And the thing is, though, is one day I was like, I want to see what people actually think I do, because I'm like, if someone doesn't know me, they probably have no clue what this girl does. However, a lot of people knew what I did. So even with me not always talking about my business, because I was super consistent when I shared, and the reason why I don't share is because I'm very specific in the niche that I do, and most people will never use it. And I was getting people referring, baby showers. I don't do that. So I stopped sharing that I do that, because everyone doesn't know the nuances of event planning. And so I just stopped doing that. However, a good amount of people knew what I actually did. And I've had conversations with people where they say, oh, I went to so-and-so's party and they had someone there that was a bartender or a caterer. Oh my gosh, I was so offended. Like, why wouldn't they ask me? I'm like, they probably had no clue.
Exactly.
I'm like, do you know everyone around you in your circle of influence that has a business? And they're like, no. I'm like, so why would you think? I'm like, and I'm sure you have someone in your circle of influence that really feels as if they're doing an amazing job in making sure people know, and you did not know. So like, you just want to, like, don't think that people get it if you're not really making sure that they get it through conversation and intentional conversations as well.
100%. Right. And make sure you share your story, right? That's the biggest thing, right? And how it got to it, right? I think I'm very big on storytelling. I think a lot of times, especially when it comes to a brand and people understanding the nature of what you do, when you can understand, like, hey, this is the story behind why I went into doing this, right? It's more relatable, right? Because people can pick small details out of specific things that become aha moments when they're having conversations with people. So those are, again, I know this is not even in that topic of what we're supposed to be talking about today, but hey, this again, those are great things just to consider, right, as you're going through that process and really trying to refine your business, refine who you are. If you're a solopreneur, refine what that looks like, so then people can easily identify you and be able to refer you out to other people that might need your service. So, all right, so we're gonna keep it moving. Basically, if you were on our last session, basically what we covered, this is just basically a segue to some of the things we talked about before, but the steps to developing irresistible offer, right? This is actually one of the most important things that we lead with when it comes to lead generation, especially anyone who's going through, for instance, like our business growth program, where we're specifically helping businesses basically identify what their primary paying service is, and creating lead magnets and a full marketing system that essentially can take their business from one level to the next, but also generate a whole bunch of leads, right? So step number one, we talked about picking a high ticket service offer or offer, right? A lot of times, right, when it comes to being a business owner, we have a variety of businesses. We have so many ideas. We want to do everything. We want to offer everything, right? But the thing about that is that for every service that you offer, there's a specific target audience that you would essentially have to focus on to make sure that this offer or this service or whatever it is that you're offering is relevant, right? So if I have somebody that comes to me for logo design, but then I'm doing website design, I'm trying to basically market to them website design, then we're completely on a different spectrum, right? So my messaging, if I'm understanding that, let's say I'm dealing with healthcare companies that want to basically build a healthcare website, then my offer is going to be specific to one, the people that I'm targeting, which might be the marketing person who's probably sits in the clinic, or it might be another I guess the CEO of the company that might be the decision maker, really, and understanding why whatever I'm offering makes sense for their business, and then going through and identifying again, who your ideal client persona is for your high ticket offer is going to be the second step, right? Because if you don't understand who you're targeting with the product or service that you have, then the rest of this doesn't make any sense, right? Because we have to be able to understand, like, okay, well, this person that we're going after is going to be more suited for this service that we're going to be providing. And then being able to create a low ticket offer, right? So typically high ticket offer would be anything that requires, again, I talked about this earlier. If somebody had to make a decision, a buying decision on something for $1,000, their mind is going to be going at 10,000 miles, right? Because they're like, okay, is this worth the investment? Are they worth it? They're going to question so many things. But with a low ticket offer, the advantage of a low ticket offer is basically that it's almost free to the point where they're just like, I'll give you my information. I don't like, it's just not going to phase me. It's not going to impact me. It's not going to hurt me. And it's just information, right? So basically what is happening is that there's an exchange of information happening, right? You're giving value and I'm giving you my information, right? So being able to understand that logic there, essentially by taking that low ticket offer, you're now able to create content that supports the low ticket, but also the high ticket offer, right? You're not going to focus too much on the high ticket, but more on the low ticket, because what's going to happen is that you're using, again, these tactics, these lead nurturing tactics, to basically lure people in to your low ticket offer so they can give you your information. Because once they get into your pipeline, what you do with that lead can determine if they become a customer of yours or not, right? And then picking your marketing channel, right, to promote your offer. That could be your website, that could be paid ad, that could be a social media channel, that could be a list of emails that you just bought from somewhere that's specifically targeting specific groups of people. So all of that really goes into it. And then building a marketing machine that converts all of those leads into a sale, right? Which basically we would get into. So the one thing I do want to touch on here, which is going to be really important for you guys to kind of understand, and I'll actually go through this as an example for you guys, is this is an example of one of the marketing machine frameworks that we have, right? And I'm going to walk you guys through it, and I'm actually show it to you guys. So then you guys can actually see a little bit of this, so you can actually see how it makes sense, right? So with basically understanding the client or the customer journey, right, we're going to actually kind of go through and walk you through this. So from an awareness standpoint, I have, for those that do know, I'm a self-published author, but essentially I have a book that we designed, and we created specifically targeting coaches that essentially are trying to start a coaching or consulting type based business, right? Now, in the span of you trying to create this type of business, what needs to happen, or what is happening, is that I have to create awareness, right? Now, my low ticket offer is this book, right? My high ticket offer is this business growth program, right? That's my bread and butter, my whole process, my systems, everything basically handed, and we coach and guide you through it, right? So through that, the first aspect of it is we have to take you through, again, becoming aware of who I am, what I do, how I do it, and building credibility and knowledge around that specific offer. So what we did was we created our lead magnet, which is, hey, here's this book. We're going to give this free book to you. And then in exchange, you provide us your information, right? So you'll get a copy of this ebook. And then in exchange, you'll provide us your email, your contact information, and then we take you through our entire workflow and process, right? So from there will be a call to action, right? With every offer, there has to be a call to action, right? And without a call to action, if you're just sending, so many times I see this, right? I have clients that have websites and they go in and, you know, there's no type of what do you call it? There's no type of opt-in or form or anything like that that they can use to essentially give you their information. So based off of that, when you spend all this money on SEO or paid ads or Google ads, essentially what ends up happening is that people come to the website and they leave. And then once they leave, guess what? You have no contacts and you have no information. So how can you follow up with your leads or build your leads if you've never actually built the process for them to go through and actually basically lead to you being able to nurture them into an actual paid client. So from that, now they will go into the consideration stage, right? Some people probably would never actually book a call, right? But due to the lead nurturing process I have, I'm maximizing on my awareness tools, which is my emails, my ads, and then my videos. So I'm leveraging these aspects to basically get these people to come back into the consideration stage. Now, in order to come back into the consideration stage, again, I have to continue to add value, because either if they downloaded something, I know that it can probably take them a day to read the ebook if they spent all day doing it, or I give them about a week to go through it, finally learn about it. And then if they actually did spend the time, then now I'll have a follow-up process in place that, again, retargets them like, hey, I had X, Y, Z person. They love this. They went in and they got so much value out of this. They implemented this into their business. And now it's already changed their trajectory of how they're building their coaching practice. Now they go back into the consideration stage because they're like, well, this was already valuable information. I've already got some information, and now you're giving me more information. Actually, I need to actually have a conversation with you. So now we're bringing them back into the funnel process of them actually scheduling a call. Once they get into that and they schedule a call on this form, which I didn't screenshot on here, is that we actually have a intake form that they have to fill out. Now, in that intake form are pre-qualifying questions, right? At the end of the day, I know that the services, my high ticket service that I'm providing isn't for everybody. And not everybody's going to be able to offer it. Not everybody's going to be able to afford it. So in the midst of that, I need to be able to ask pre-qualifying questions that allows me to understand where they are in their journey. So then I can either direct them in the best path without rejecting them. A lot of times, if somebody says, hey, I'm not ready to make something, we just forget all about them, right? And that's the wrong approach to have. We have to be able to go through and understand and meet people where they are, because it doesn't mean that they won't be a client of yours. They're just not ready at that time. So that goes back to the whole lead nurturing process. So then at that point, there will be a follow-up. We will have follow-up, emails going out. We also utilize SMS text messaging in our software as well. So that literally they're getting text messages saying, hey, you got a call coming up. Because how many people are forgetful, right? How many times has somebody scheduled an appointment on your calendar and they just didn't show up? And then you text them 5 minutes into the conversation like, hey, are you joining us? Oh, so sorry, forgot, right? That happens so many times, right? So in order to understand, again, people are going to be people. People are forgetful. They get busy. Time happens, right? So in order to mitigate that process so your time is not being wasted, we have reminders put into place, right? That again are educating and telling people like, hey, we're looking forward to meeting with you. We're looking to have a conversation with you. Here's some things that you can do to prepare for the call. Now you're getting into the nitty-gritty of really just being able to, again, understand your buyer, right? And by you showing up, basically helps them understand that, okay, this person's serious, this person understands me, and the likelihood of them not showing up to the call is very minimal, right? So now we're closing that gap, right? We're closing that gap of people not showing up, even like down to like we tell people like, hey, you can't, if you're not a decision maker, please make sure the decision maker is on the call, right? Because we're not trying to waste our time talking to people that are not going to be the decision maker. And if you're not, then unfortunately, the call doesn't need to happen, or the meeting doesn't need to happen. So at that point, a lost lead, we would have a nurturing process for them as well, right? Going into understanding like, okay, just because they didn't essentially sign on or become a client of ours doesn't necessarily mean that they stop being a business owner, right? Their needs are still there. You just have to continue to be present and top of mind so that they can be able to understand that you exist, and that when they are ready, that they're able to make a buying decision. And then that goes into the purchase. And then from the purchase, again, there's some automation there as well. And then that goes into the loyalty of just continuing to nurture them on services that complement things that they've already bought, right? A lot of times I've seen it all the time. I have clients that come in and they sell a client one thing, but then they're trying to sell them something completely different that has no relevance to basically what they just bought. So sometimes if you're trying to build that loyalty, look at maintenance options, look at other options that can complement the services and the business essentially that you have to offer from a service-based side. So that way you can continue to do business and continue to add value, because the more value you add, the more they're willing to pay you, right? It's so much easier to continue to sustain an existing customer than to pay to get a new customer, right? So a lot of times that's where we have to do better in making sure that we maximize on these systems, right? And a lot of this is all automated, right? We didn't even get into automation. Automating this entire process took time, but it required you to spend the time to understand your client, your ideal client, the process that they go through, your process, and building these systems so that they can actually fully work for you and free up your time so you can continue to do the things that you want to do to grow your business. So Jesse, I know I said a lot, so I'm gonna let you elaborate a little bit more on this, and anything you want to share around processes. I know with HoneyBook, obviously there's so much that goes into that as well.
Yeah, no, I think that this is a really great diagram. And the best thing is just taking the time. You said it perfectly. Like, it takes time to create it. However, once you take the time to create it, you save so much time. And I think that that's something to really focus on, is that time is money. And you
Yes.
can either do things efficiently now or pay the price later. So just really taking the time to really think through this process, because some people are like, oh, all these steps necessary. Yes, they are. You may be doing them on occasion and not with intention, or you may not even be present to the fact that you should be doing them. So it's important to take the time to do it so that you have the time to really nurture your clients, to do the services in which you are really wanting to do, not this non-fun stuff of it, because it's important. This is how you get a chance to do what you want to do. And I think that's something that's really key to remember, because it's the only way to scale. Because if you're doing things manually, there's always going to be the momentum moving forward and momentum going backwards. And it's always going to be going through this cycle. So it's finding out like what type of flow you want your people leads going through, how you're going to show up consistently. Because running a business, what makes it most challenging is just not having clarity. The more clarity you have, it allows for you to know what to create. It allows for you to know who you serve, how you serve them, what they want, and how to give them an experience that keeps them coming back. But if we're just going off vibes off of everything inside of our business, is eventually not going to feel that great. Or it can just be a fly by night. And honestly, there's some people that just want a short-term solution financially. They're not looking to build a long-term business. So even with that being said, be clear, is this something that you're trying to build long-term, or is it just something for right now? And if it's for something right now, that's totally fine. It may not make sense to invest in all of this stuff, or even invest in it and make a lot of money for right now, or make whatever you can make for right now. So just take the time to take it out. And that's why I always recommend people just do a process map, write out where you're taking people, how you're going to get them there, and what's your goal and your attention. You always need to have that. So that's all I have to add on to it. Is a great diagram.
Thank you. Yeah, like I said, it's a really important thing, and like I tell a lot of people, especially business owners, when I do meet with them, I'm like, imagine how much time you'll have to do the things you love, just knowing that you can automate some of it and delegate some of it, right? It's hard you can't delegate stuff if you don't know what to delegate, or if there's not a process in place to delegate it, right? And in order to reach growth, you have to be able to understand and know that you can't be everywhere and everywhere at the same time. And you can't literally do everything. Everybody has the same 24 hours, but it's all about how you maximize your 24 hours and the people that you bring into your space, your business, to be able to really help alleviate the pressures of running a business, right? And And by having those processes, it takes so much, right? Obviously, like you said, the amount of hours we spent building multiple processes, and I'm talking, that's just one, right? We got multiple, like we got processes for the other programs we got processes for other lead magnets that we have processes for our web design process, our graphic design, our lead gen, like all of these things, right? We have processes in place for it. And because of that, it makes my life so much more efficient, right? Because literally, and my project manager, she can come in and literally and just take literally everything that's there, take a vacation, and things will still happen, right? I can go away for a month and come back and things will still be in motion. And that's because everything is documented, right? My entire business process is documented. And that's the only way you can scale, right? When you think about franchises and why they continue to succeed so much, right? They have over 90% success rate compared to small businesses that just start off by themselves. Now, the reason why they keep succeeding is because literally they have a process. They understand their client. They understand, where their ideal client lives. I mean, like if you think about CVS and Walgreens, why do you think whenever CVS opens, another Walgreens opens next to it? Because they share the same common customer. Like these are the things that people like, again, like by understanding your business and taking the time to really process, okay, where am I in my business? Who am I actually going after? Does it make sense? And then literally you can take that and figure out, okay, and the same thing with strategic partners. I tell business owners all the time, like, you're not in this business by yourself. You might offer a service, but I'm pretty sure that there's somebody that complements the service that you do. They're not in direct competition with you, but they complement you. And the people that they're serving probably are the same people that you need to be serving. So if you can build those relationships with those people and have a process for them, then now everything is just a back and flow, right? You'll pass referrals, they pass referrals, and it's a back and forth thing. I work with a lot of printers. I work with photographers. We don't do photography and videography, but I know that a lot of people who are into branding or self-branding and building their awareness, again, they're at some point, once they get a picture done, they're probably gonna need their social media revamped. So then they come to us, right? And they say, hey, I got this client, we just took their pictures. Like, what can you do to help them with getting in front of the right people? So you have that. Then you have people like, oh, well, they're just starting a business, so they just did all this photo shoot. Well, they're doing a book launch. Now they need a website. So I'm partnering with the right people because I know that outside of the people that I meet on a regular basis, that strategic partnerships and understanding my business process, once I have a customer going through my stages and my process, that they're going to need other things. So it's easy for me to refer people out. It's easy for me to refer somebody that has HoneyBook because I know you offer HoneyBook. I don't specialize in HoneyBook. But because I know and I built that relationship with you, and I know that some people may have problems or issues with creating processes and systemizing their aspect of their business. Oh, well, you need to speak to Jesse.
Yeah.
Right. So again, it goes beyond just, okay, I have a product and service. It goes more into really like, hey, how do I continue to build a community, a network that is interchangeable in so many ways that I can be able to connect and grow my business, but also add value to other people, which then in return, they end up adding value to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. I think this is a really great conversation for people to really lean in and look at what they're currently doing and how they can do it better.
Yep. So on to the next. I know we got a little bit of time, guys. We're gonna wrap this up, but I did want to get to this slide for you guys, for everybody who's been waiting patiently. Wanted to really talk through how to create your marketing machine, right? This is, again, kind of goes back to some of the things that Jesse and I were talking about when it comes to processes. But step number one, you need to identify your ideal client pain point, right? You have a product or service, but what is the pain point, right? What is the need that most of your clients are facing or looking to solve, and the problems that they're facing that you can actually provide a solution for, right? Next thing is leveraging the existing value content, like the value-driven content. So obviously going through and looking at the line of work that you've done, right? Understanding, okay, well, I've already done blogs, I've already done virtual webinars that talk about these problems and these pain points that now I can leverage, whether on social media, whether it's through email marketing, whether it's through, just text message marketing, or just a conversation like, oh, well, what do you need? And they're like, hey, well, I have a problem with this. Well, I got a video on this. Let me get your information. I'll send it to you, right? Now leveraging that. Step number 3 is designing a customer journey roadmap. So we just talked about this, right? Which is the framework. Your roadmap is very similar. Obviously, it's going to basically be looking at your email marketing channel. Again, you pick and choose what marketing channels you want to use. Like there's social media, there's your website, there's email marketing. All of these are a variety of channels that you can basically build into your roadmap, right? So the moment somebody fills out a form on your website, or they DM you, or they fill out a form on, let's say, a Facebook ad in that form that you probably are using, if that happens, what stages do you want to take them from A to Z for them to become a client? And if they don't buy within, let's say you set a 30-day time frame, right? Within 30 days, what does that journey look like? How many emails are you going to want to provide to them, right? From the moment that they come into your pipeline. How many points of communication, as far as picking up the phone, texting, or getting on a call with them, are you going to want to do during that stage? How much value of information are you going to want to provide to them, whether it's you creating more content that supports a problem that they have? Literally just go through and design that, right? If you can do that, literally, you'll be able to understand that there are other areas where you can continue to improve on to see what works. Then through that, you build trust through consistent follow-ups. Jesse talked about follow-ups, right, early on, and how basically, somebody missed out almost $3,000 of sales, right? They went to somebody else because they had a terrible follow-up option, like a terrible follow-up, right? You don't want to be in the business of running a business, but don't follow up. The follow-ups is where you make your money, right? If you want to close clients, your follow-ups is literally where it lies. It's not necessarily, essentially, you go in and you have a conversation and, okay, now this person buys. It's in the follow-up, right? It's in you understanding where they are in their process, understanding that buyer's journey, understanding that, okay, what are the things, the objections that are in your mind that's prohibiting you from moving forward, right? The people who go through our business growth program, we actually have, so one thing that we do provide is actually a sales script, right? Which is huge. A lot of people don't have it. They don't understand what a sales script is, right? The sales script, the nature of the sales script is that you have to understand everything about your ideal client, right? And by understanding your ideal client, whenever you get on the phone, there's certain questions that you're going to ask and that you're going to anticipate certain responses for. And as you're going through learning about your client or potential client, towards the end, when you get ready to ask for the sale, right? Again, like we said, not everybody's going to close with you on the first time. But when you get close to asking for the sale, and we literally have a list of objections that we know, right? We know what they're going to ask. Well, I need to talk to my wife. I need to talk to my spouse. I need to do this. I'm not serious. Or can you send me a whole bunch of a whole bunch of people you've worked with before? And, do you have any references that you can share with me? And a lot of times, right, those questions aren't because that they don't necessarily know or believe that you can't do what you want, like what you're offering. It's because they're lacking information, right? That is not enough for them to say yes. So and again, I know this is separate from our conversation, but for some weird reason it's coming out in this conversation, but somebody that's watching this probably needs to hear this. But really, at the end of the day, right, the biggest thing that we have to understand is that there are going to be objections. A lot of times the objections come from either a limited belief that they have. They probably don't see the vision. They probably don't see where they can take their business. It comes from either one, they're indecisive, right? They're not serious too much about their business and the growth that they want to take it, like basically go about taking it. Or number three, they really just don't have the money, right? But at the end of the day, when it comes to money, sometimes if somebody's truly serious and really believes in what you have to offer, they'll come back. I've had clients literally 2 years ago. I spoke to them. They're still in my pipeline. They get emails from me. I'm always sending out value. I'm following up, every 6 months, just because they're in my process and I already know, they were in the process of possibly buying or doing business with me. And literally they'll call me up like I'm ready to go. Mm-hmm. And that, right, is huge, right? When you can have that many touch points that add so much value to people, it's going to be very hard for them to forget you. And it's also going to be a lot easier for them to say yes when they are ready. Right? So, and I'm sure you've probably seen it, Jesse, you've had people you probably talked to before, and they came back out of nowhere, and you're just like, okay, I'm ready to do business with you. Like,
yeah,
how can this happen?
Yeah, and that's why it's important to always just keep communication and send valuable information. And valuable information isn't book me, because that's a great way to get blocked. So it's important to just add value. And if you can't figure out what to do with adding value, keep that even consistent, so there's a theme. So then you don't have to, like, if there's going to be a tip a month or, tip Tuesday, whatever is going to help you with staying consistent on a message, but it cannot always be hire me, because if not, they won't hire you.
Exactly. So with that, I think we had, I got to go over the last point here, which is leveraging automation without losing your personal touch, right? This part is actually really important. And I've seen it all the time where people try to automate so much stuff that it doesn't sound real, right? Mm-hmm. Or you go into ChatGPT and then you're just creating all this stuff and then you're just putting it into a system and just automating it, but there's no personal touch to it. And people can literally read through that, right? So having a personal touch actually goes further, right? And again, depending on how familiar you are with systems or like your processes, right? Even when it comes to like filling out a form, right? If I met somebody at an event, I'll use this as an example. So from time to time, I go to different networking events. And when I do go to networking events, obviously I'm going to exchange business cards. I'm going to get certain cards. But imagine if I have to go through the process of, I'll use it. So we met at Dallas Startup Week, right? I probably shook over 75 hands, right? Exchange business cards with about 60 people. And I have a list of business cards, right? That are just literally piled up. Now, I've had one-on-one conversations. I'm very intentional about who I give my business card to, and I'm also very intentional about who I take business cards from. Mm-hmm. Now, in the scenario, I would know who is a potential partner. I'm already categorizing. Is this going to be a potential partner that I can do business with? Is this somebody that's in it just for money? Is this somebody in it because they're actually trying to grow their business and actually add value? Like, I'm already conceptualizing and I'm already making notes on every single person that I shake hands with. Mm-hmm. So by the time it comes into it, and now I have to upload and put everybody's information into my database and then send out an email, I have specific notes that are embedded into my intake form. Mm-hmm. When I put all that information in, and it pre-populates in all of the columns of my email blast that goes out. It'll tell you where I met you. It'll have your name in it. It'll address you by your first name. And then it probably would mention something about conversation we had about something, right? That level of personal touch, a lot of people miss out on, right? But the reason why I get a lot of people responding to me is because now I went above and beyond and took just a basic information from a business card, added additional value to it, uploaded into my database, sent out an email that had pre-selected fields, and now people know everything about the conversations that we had. Mm-hmm. Now, that is high level value because now they're like, wow, this person really remembered me. They really remember the conversation we had. They really remember. And now that takes it even further because then now as I create other chain emails, I can embed some of those small elements into those emails. So again, I'm taking a simple idea, taking it to a process, systemizing it, automating it, and using that as a nurturing process, right? And that's so simple. So again, and then going back to, again, step number 6 of just being able to measure it, right? Just because you set one email, you write out an email doesn't mean that everybody's going to engage with it at the same level, right? So I encourage you to, if you're using email marketing as part of your lead nurturing process, then make sure that you're A/B testing, right? Make sure that you're testing different intro emails, right? Because the first email is always the most important, right? If you can get them to open that email, then the likelihood of them opening the rest of your emails is actually pretty high. So if you can figure out and measure those small little details in your business, and again, they're only small touch points, right? And by doing that, it changes the whole trajectory of your business and how you do business. Yeah. Anything you want to add to this?
No, I mean, it's pretty clear. I think the key is just like I mentioned before, is taking the time to learn this, and creating the structure. Because once it's created once, because even with networking, I always, after I do meetings with people, I meet people, I do follow-up messages to schedule, so when I go to a networking event, I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Like, could you imagine if every network, I don't legitimately, in my event business, we do 30 plus events a month. And just in the next 4 days, I have 5 events going on. I have no brain capacity. I don't want to have to rethink every single thing in my business. And someone was like, oh my gosh, it has to be a lot to just be organized. I'm like, no, I can't imagine not being organized. I don't want to, to be very honest. So it's important to understand, to scale, it requires for you to have structure. Mm-hmm. It's the only way that you're able to grow. Because if you have to always, because I think that sometimes what happens is that when we're even thinking about the packages, we're like, well, every customer needs something different. Their need may be different, but what you offer is the same. If you have to rethink your package each and every time, that means it's going to take you long to even send them a proposal, to even get paid. Yep. And then what happens is then you might strain what you can do in your own schedule. And then you never really master what you really wanted to do, because now you're allowing things to creep into the picture of everything. So take the time. It sounds like a lot, but once you have it set up, it makes life so much easier for you. If I know I'm doing outreach calls, I know exactly what I'm saying, who I'm saying it to. Mm-hmm. I know what messages are following up. I'm just copy and paste the email. Take the time in the beginning. That's the best thing I can ever recommend for you to grow and scale. Take the time to do this.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I second that. It really does help a lot. So some common pitfalls to avoid in this process that we're going to share with you is over automation without personalization is a problem, mm-hmm. right? If you are over analyzing, over automating your entire process, then people are going to be getting processed emails that they shouldn't be getting, right? And that goes very far, right? So for instance, if somebody goes through one of my funnels and they opt in for something, but I know that the goal is that I need to get them to schedule a call and they haven't scheduled a call, then they're in one process of my workflow. And that's to get them to schedule a call workflow, right? Mm-hmm. Once they actually schedule a call, then that trigger needs to basically happen where now they're no longer getting any information about booking calls, right? Mm-hmm. Because now they already scheduled a call. So now the list of emails that they should be getting is just, hey, we're looking forward to speaking to you. We're looking forward to talking to you. Here's a 1 hour reminder. Here's a 1 day reminder. These are the things that they need to get. So once they get on the call, once that call happens, then literally it would take you to another process, right? Either they showed up or they didn't. If they didn't show up, I have literally a do not show up call process. And it's going to follow up with you back into the stage of, hey, we're sorry we missed you. Sorry you didn't join the call. Was it something that we could have done different to make sure that you partake in it, right? And then now it's taking you through that journey. So again, don't over automate without personalization, because again, personalizing it, making it more to the, making sure that their name's in the email is really important. Neglecting lead segmentation. I think we kind of emphasize a lot about that today. So again, segmenting your leads, right? As they come in, not everybody, understand who's a paid client and who's a lead. Let's start with that. Who is a paid client and who's a lead? A lot of times, imagine this. How many times have you probably seen it? Actually, I'm gonna use an example. How many times you've seen that you have a service that you're offering, or, and again, you can probably see this as an example somewhere else, but you have a service that you're offering. You get the new client. You're charging them, obviously, the service price, but then all of a sudden, you send them another email that says, hey, you can get 50% off this service today. It's like, you didn't manage your process.
Yeah, correct.
You need to segment, right? Because why are you sending an offer to an existing client that's probably now going to question, well, I could have gotten this for cheap. I could have gotten this for 50% less. So now in their mind, you're already creating this sense of, well, I could have just waited, right? Maybe next time if I do work with them, let me wait. Let me wait for that next offer that they're going to have, right? So now you're creating these habits, right, that start to happen by basically not being aware of who's in your pool of, your pool of leads or database that you have, right? Know who's a client, know who's a lead, and keep the nurturing and marketing or communication process separate, right? Because it will make a huge difference in your business. Focusing only on sales pitches. If you just send out emails or text messages telling people, hey, buy this, buy this, buy this, like Jesse says, the quickest way to get blocked, quickest way to get put in spam, unsubscribed, like blacklisted, whatever it is, don't do it. Ignoring data and metrics, right? There's so much data in front of you. A lot of times people don't understand the data. And it's the same thing. I tell people all the time, again, if we're looking at a website and you have a website, but you're not getting any leads, you're not generating any leads from it. And it's like, oh, well, I have this amazing website, but, I have no leads coming in, but I have 10,000 people coming to the website. I've only got one person subscribed. You got a website problem. You have a lead process, you have a messaging problem, you have a lot of problems that need to be fixed, because the goal of having a website is to get people to convert into actually getting into your database, so then you can be able to nurture them into something that you want to sell them on. So again, don't ignore your data. Lack of clear to action, clear call to action. Again, if you're not giving people steps for what they need to do next, and you're just sending out emails just because you want to send out emails, and then again, you're missing the boat, right? You're missing the opportunities to continue to add value and to also gather more information, so then you can also be able to possibly close them on the sale. And then overlooking the power of multi-channel nurturing. I know we talked about just focus on one, but after you mastered and figured out one of them, try to implement other ones, right, into your process. So then you can continue to build off of those, right? Once you have it, now it's just modifying and changing things around, making sure that the messaging makes sense, turning things off and on. Those things are easy to do. Outside of that, any other pitfalls you wanted to add? We're pretty much done, almost done here.
No, I think those are the main ones. I mean, and I would say with the ignoring data and metrics, like don't ignore any data inside of your company. Track it, because often what happens, I'll talk to someone, they're like, oh, I'm doing all this work. And I'm like, have you messaged or did this at least 10? Because a lot of people don't understand the laws of averages. And so when they say how much they've done, I'm like, well, that makes sense that you got 0. I mean, like that's or like I'm like, you did enough to get the result that you got. Like, if you don't do the numbers, then you don't get data. And the thing is that when you do anything, it teaches you something. And don't look at it from a space of like failure or any of that. Like, don't be attached to it, because when you start to track the data, you're able to know what result comes from you doing a specific activity, a specific amount of time. The beautiful thing about it is that you can then learn how to do it better. However, if you're not tracking any of it and there's no consistency in any of it, you will continue to not get a result. So I know if I'm looking to get 10 new customers by the end of the year, I know what activity to do. It may come close to it, it may go over it. So I can daily, like today, I have to do some calls. And I just focus on doing the calls. Some are going to convert, some's going to, not, then that's fine. But I don't have to care about that. If I do my part, which is the activity, results will come. But if I am inconsistent with activity, I cannot be upset at the results. If I don't ever look at it, you have to just know like what's working best. What are the ones that people are looking at more? What's getting the best? If you're doing it from like emails, like what type of headers? Like if you're just like, oh, I'm just doing all these things, and you're never looking to see like how many people are clicking on it, how many people are actually opening it, how many people are even landing on it, how many people are even like, keep that in an easy document, or you can run reports monthly. I like a document because then I can see what previous times were. And that's just a visual aid for me to know, because again, I legitimately shut my brain off most days. I'm doing work. I just do the activity. If I know what I need to do, I just do it. And I just like to be able to easily just look at a report. Oh, last time it said this. Okay, that's great. And you're like, so this is working. Keep doing that. Like that's just how I process things. So if you don't keep track of that information, you just legitimately will have an issue. So
no, I agree 100%. So no, thanks for sharing that. So yeah, honestly, I just want to say thank you so much for jumping on, Jesse. Like this was really great. And hopefully everyone who's still on, who's gotten some value out of this, we greatly appreciate you sticking through this with us. And hopefully you were able to get some value and knowledge out of this, because again, at the end of the day, we're doing this because we want to support you guys. We want to make sure you get the information. We want to make sure that you can apply these things into your business and just look at and explore areas of opportunities, right? Because there's always going to be opportunities to do something better, right? In your business, that one little change can lead to so much more growth and so much more opportunities that you probably would have never realized that you were missing out on until you actually try to do it, right? So again, these are things that you guys, again, free resources, free information. One thing I did want to talk about quickly, and then we can wrap this up, is that for those, again, who've been with us and rocking with us since day one, we truly appreciate you being here with us. And we do have our final virtual summit event that's happening on October 16th. So again, if you got a lot of value out of this, October 16th is going to be, really one of our big ones, because we're going to tie in everything into this, right? We're going to be covering the foundations of business growth, right? And then how to basically establish a scalable system that supports your business, but also empowers your team, right? Because as you go into continue to grow your business, building your team is also going to be really relevant in understanding who has, as you're looking for team members, who has a hustle mindset, who has a growth mindset, right? And being able to distinguish between both of them, because that's really going to help you really with being able to build a business, systems and processes that really can help you take your business to another level. And then for those wondering, tickets now are available, right? You can go in for November 8th. In-person summit event is happening. on November 8th, and it's an all-day event. And we're gonna basically, I want to say, like, right now, we have some amazing speakers that are gonna be there. And we just brought on 2 other speakers that you don't want to miss this event for. We're gonna be talking about mindset. We're gonna have a CPA there, who's also gonna be talking about how to understand your finances in your business when it comes to your income statement, your balance sheets, and also how to get funding within your business. We're going to have a business attorney there that's going to be talking about intellectual property, how to start a business, the type of entities that are available, and the pros and cons of both, depending on where you are in your business, especially as you're thinking about growth, and going possibly from an LLC to an S Corp or C Corp or some type of partnership or joint venture. There's all these aspects of business that are really important for you to understand, and they all obviously have elements behind it. So if you haven't registered, you haven't gotten your ticket, right over here, we have a QR code. You can scan it, or just go to hustlegrowth.com, and then you'll be able to register and get your tickets for this event. Again, it's going to be an all-day event, 9 to 5, and we're very excited to kick this off less than 2 months from now. So make sure to get your tickets. And for those who are joining, we're actually going to be giving away we're going to provide you guys with a code for you guys to be able to get a discount off of the actual tickets. So again, thank you for joining and staying on with us. And basically it's going to be, I guess, the code that you guys would use is going to be Hustle24. So make sure to use that, and you'll be able to get a discount off of your ticket for this event. And again, that's going to cut off, that promo code is going to cut off at the end of the day on Friday. So if you don't use it, make sure to go ahead and register. We're very excited. So Hustle24 is the promo code. Make sure to use it, and you'll be able to get 20% off your ticket sale. And then we'll go from there. Other than that, I want to say thank you. Probably don't have time. Actually, we got time for one last question. We had a question that came in that said, how do you keep reaching leads without seeming desperate? How do you keep reaching leads without seeming desperate? And then actually, yeah, we'll be able to answer these 2 questions that we have, and then we're going to jump off, guys. It says, how do you keep reaching leads without seeming desperate? So Jesse, I'll let you answer this one.
I would say the biggest thing is just adding value. Like you can have, or just asking for clarification. So like and I'm talking about individuals that have reached out because they're interested in your services. So one thing that I do like to do is I have my HoneyBook integrated using Zapier into ConvertKit. So what I have is a funnel or a segment that just adds value to people that's not aligned to why they reached out. So it's just adding value. So then they're like, oh, I'm getting some follow-ups about why I reached out for service, but then also she's giving me some tips and things to help me support me with my goals. So when you're doing follow-up, it's important to ask some of the questions that people typically have. Like one of the things inside of mine is people don't always realize, like they don't realize that they can ask questions, or they think like, oh, I don't see something specific, and everyone doesn't naturally think to reply. I mean, you would think that it is natural. However, it's not natural for some people. So I have a follow-up question that says, hey, thanks for reaching out for our services. I just wanted to check to see, did you see anything, have any questions on anything that we're commenting on our brochure? And people will reply back then and then drill. So when you're doing leads, you want to space it out enough so that it allows for people to process, act, or react, but then also add value to them. So then that way you're reiterating why they reached out and what's your expertise. So when you're trying to not look desperate, the way that makes you look desperate is by always saying, book me, book me, book me, compared to like writing your copy and your email template so that it's actually inquisitive and adding value, not just taking away.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with that. And I would second everything that you just said, but also just remember, like, the people that you're marketing to, they are people, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, they're human just like you. And if you can put yourself in their shoes, if you feel like what your approach is doing comes off very desperate, then you need to change your approach because at the end of the day, you are almost your biggest customer too, right? Or your biggest client, right? Because you also have to be able to look into your process, your system, and really be able to say, hey, if I'm doing this, how would I receive it, right? If you can put yourself in your customer's shoes, that's probably one of the biggest ways to avoid seeming desperate is being knowing that, hey, well, I can do this. I'm going to send this email. This makes sense. And that it doesn't come off too pushy, but it's more so value. And it's more so, okay, well, my intentions are clear and it's not just me just trying to sell you on something. So if you can keep that in mind, I think 100% you would avoid seeming desperate when it comes to communicating with them.
Yes.
And then somebody, I guess, asked one last question, which was, do you know of any tools to make those maps that you were talking about?
I just use pen and paper.
Okay.
I mean, just to flush it out because it's not your final. Like
Yep.
you want to feel unrestricted. So like I'm sure there's some really cool fancy apps, but if that's going to be a barrier for you to write out this thing, get a piece of paper, a dry erase board, some tunes, and just let it flow, and then just cross off like I don't want to do this, or it'd be cool to do this. How do I do that? Like allow yourself to think big. Of course, I'm sure there's some really fancy tech that's out there. However, I just need people to make the time to just do it. So if that means just pulling out a piece of paper, because the thing is that even if you do it on like a whiteboard, you're still going to put it into a platform. So I don't know why to add the extra tech into the middle of it. So just use a pen and paper and then put it into whatever system you're going to be using. We don't need to have something to then do something to when it's not the end use. So I just use pen and paper. That's how I do it.
No, I agree with you as well on that. I think initially, once we got into the nitty gritty of our business processes, a lot of it was just more so, I would say, start with a question. Ask yourself, like, what is the process that you want somebody to go through? If you make it open-ended, then you don't restrict yourself mentally to say, oh, well, I don't think they should be going through this, or I don't want them to go through that. Just generally think about that process. And then number two, the other thing I did for me that was really helpful was go to my project manager. Like, I know it's not my strongest suit. So what did I do? I found somebody that can do it better, right? That could take what's in my head and ask the right questions and be able to systemize it, right? So then I can also understand the flow, right? Our project manager, Catalina, she literally was going through like creating charts, graphs, talking about like, if I brought you guys the actual workflow, I didn't even show it to y'all, but you guys would probably look at this thing like, is this like Einstein like creating something? Like, because there's so many components, right? That happen. So sometimes it's really just keep it simple, guys. Keep it simple. All right. It's the main thing. Keep it simple. Figure out how you want to basically cater to them, add value. Also make a list of all the assets that you do have, right? Of all the things that you can utilize to add value. And then, figure out how you want to build it into your process. So Jesse, can you also tell us how they can get in contact with you? Because I think also with how you are, how organized you are, and the things that you do, especially even with HoneyBook, like that's a whole nother beast. Like being able to be able to utilize that. So tell people how they can get in contact with you and go from there.
Yeah, so the best way on my consulting side of my life, my platform is called Green Eyed Ambition. So like Green Eyed, EYED Ambition. It's consistent on all platforms. So if you look for me on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, as well as TikTok, I am on there like that. So you'll see I have free resources right now. Because most of the people I work with are in the event lane, I have a resource that's teaching people how to create packages for holiday party season and how to scale that. But I also do free workshops on occasion on how to use HoneyBook. And I do have a lot of videos on my YouTube on how to use HoneyBook. And I have codes. So if you find me on Green Eyed Ambition, you'll see all the cool resources that I really try to create and generate for those of us that are in service-based businesses and looking to use CRMs and processes to be able to grow. And that's what I love to do. So you can reach out to me on any of those. And I have consulting, sign up sessions. It's all set up. So all you have to do is just click it, because I will not go back and forth with you on an email to figure out what time works well for you. Just click on the link and you can pick whatever time you want to talk. But I have some free resources as well as some paid ones out there right now. So check it out.
Thank you so much, Jesse. It was such a pleasure having you on here. And again, thank you for sharing your insight and adding value to this summit. We're truly grateful to have you. And like I said, we'll definitely stay in touch. And I'm excited to see all the great things you're getting ready to do. And please send me any events that you have coming up so I can be there and support as well. So
yes, we're going to do our YouTube live as well. So I have to send you over some info on that on Friday.
Okay. Well, all right. Y'all heard it from her. So we're doing a YouTube live, y'all. So make sure to stay tuned. We'll keep y'all posted on that as well. And that should definitely be another great place for you guys to learn and gather more information about how to do business better, but also really just understand that at the end of the day, we're all in this journey together, right? So make sure to utilize this all. We're all here as a resource. So don't shy away from it. Even if it's just a question, just feel free to reach out. Other than that, thank you guys so much. We're so grateful. And we look forward to seeing you in the final virtual summit session on October 16th. If you guys can be in attendance, and then also our in-person event, which is November 8th. So don't forget, promo code is HUSTLE24, so you can get your tickets and get your 20% discount. And we look forward to seeing y'all there. Peace.